Hi guys, welcome back to Mr. Lowthers Kitchen, where today we're going to be doing a very special dish, turkey puttanesca, and while we're doing that we're going to discuss some of the things that we do in food at Colchester Academy. What we want to do first is we want to get all of our ingredients ready. Okay, so turkey puttanesca is a great dish. It's really sort of good for sort of processing brain function. So there's loads of stuff in it. What we want to do is we want to have some turkey, 400 grams of turkey. You can either have mince or turkey breasts. I much prefer turkey mince for this. We've got 250 milliliters of chicken stock, which I've already prepared, and I'll show you a video of how to do that now. Some tomato puree, vegetable oil, an onion which we're going to chop up. I've got 2 cloves of garlic over here, some basil and oregano, and I've got some chopped tomatoes and olives. Now it says black pitted olives. Black olives are slightly more mature than the green olives, so they provide a little bit better flavour, and we want to go for the pitted olives so they don't have any of the seeds inside of them. That's a little bit easier to chew on, and it's a little less hassle to prepare. Okay? What we'll do is we'll start chopping the onion and the garlic, and then we'll get everything sorted out to go in the pot. So, for those of you who've seen my other videos, we know that I like chopping up some garlic first. So in order to chop up the garlic, press down with your hands and crush the garlic. Okay? And that makes it slightly easier to peel open and to tear the skin off. Okay. It's also going to help release some of the flavour, but since we're chopping up the garlic anyway, that doesn't really matter too much. Alright, so let's peel the skin off the garlic. And this is one thing that we're going to be doing while we're in school, is looking at how we use knives and equipment correctly and safely, and just making sure we get the most out of all of our equipment. Okay, so although I'm using the big fancy chef knife and dropping stuff all over the floor, although I'm using that big chef knife, I'm going to make sure I tell everyone how to use the knives correctly so that we don't lose any fingers. One thing we're going to do for that is we're going to make sure we have different methods of cutting. For example, we're going to have the claw method, which is this one over here, where we curve our fingers inside and we use the knife to rest on our knuckle. Alright, so when we're slicing, we basically use our knuckles as a guide. And we grip down on the food so it doesn't slide about anywhere. That way I don't start slicing with my fingers. I definitely don't want to be slicing with my fingers extended, because that will put my fingers at a lot more risk. Okay, so again, claw method, just start slicing across the garlic. And once we've got the garlic sliced up like so, what we're going to do is we're going to use 3 fingers on top of the knife, and we're just going to start slicing across the garlic and basically creating an arch motion over it to slice it up even thinner. And we're basically just chopping it up as small as we possibly can. That's going to create an even spread of garlic across our dish, and it's going to make sure that we get enough flavour coming out through the puttanesca. Alright. Now we'll do that one more time just to make sure we've got a really fine slice of garlic. There we go. Alright. I'm going to put the garlic to one side for the moment. And then I'm going to get my onion back. Again, if you've seen any of my other videos, we always sort of slice an onion in the correct way. We slice it from top to bottom first, so we're using now what we call the arch method or the bridge method, where we're creating an arch for the knife to go in between our fingers. And we're just going to push down and forward in a single motion, slicing backwards, and then we've got an onion sliced in half. Now, I'm only going to use half an onion for this because I find sometimes with the red onion they're a little bit stronger, so I find it's better to use half an onion, but the recipe that we've got says to use a whole onion. That's a white onion. I don't have any white onions on me at the moment. I've got a red onion, so I'm going to try and just ease back on some of that flavour a little bit. Okay. Right guys, once you've peeled your onion, you want to make sure that you use your claw method again, and you're going to slice off the stem of the onion. The stem is the bit with essentially the stalk coming out the top of the onion, okay? Not the very root bit. We want to leave the root attached, and we don't want to try and sort of cut into it as much as possible. We want to try and leave that as clear as we possibly can, because the root is the bit that's going to make us cry, okay? And so again, we're going to use this claw method one more time, just to start slicing down the onion, creating even and consistent slices through the onion. And that's what we're going to be looking at when we're in the food classes, is to make sure that our food is consistent and our practice is consistent as well. So we start off with some really simple dishes, working on knife skills and just how to use the ovens. And all we're looking for is consistency with that. So when we first start out, we might not be very good and very dexterous, so we might not be able to use all of our all of the equipment correctly the first time round, but we want to keep practicing so that we get better with it. And after time, we'll get incredibly good and we'll get incredibly quick at it. So the first time you slice an onion, and again, once we've sliced down the onion, we're going to slice across that. But once we start slicing this onion at school, it might take us a long time to actually start getting into the habit of how to slice the onion. You might forget certain bits. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep practicing with it. And we're going to get consistent, and we're going to get better at it, and we're going to get quicker. Sometimes it'll take ages to do things the first time round. But if we keep practicing, we'll get even better at it. So, what we're doing is we're slicing the onion, and again, all I'm doing is really just sort of slicing across those lines that I've made. Because the onion has gotten too thin, I've pushed it flat, and then again just started slicing across it. I want to use as much of the onion as possible. Something that we look at in school and in food is food provenance and where food comes from. And one of the things that we find out is how much food we waste when we look at that. So we really don't want to waste too much. I've cut all the way around the root, and I can feel it now. It's starting to make me cry because of all the gases and the juices that are released from it. So I'm just going to get rid of that. So I now have my onion and my garlic, and they're all ready. My herbs are ready. My chopped tomatoes are all set. My olives are all done. Everything else is prepared. We're going to start moving over to the cooker, and we'll get this puttanesca cooked. Right, ladies and gentlemen, what I've done is I've added in my 3 tablespoons of oil to my pan. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it on to medium heat. So I'm going to make sure I'm on a medium heat, and that's going to heat up the oil for a bit. Alright, I should hopefully hear a sizzle of oil, and then I can add in all of my onions. How do I make sure my oil is hot enough? Well, I should hopefully hear this sizzle. You might not be able to hear it on the camera, but that's starting to sizzle at the moment. So I'll just add in my onions. That sounds better. And just give them a slight stir around. I basically just need them to soften for a moment. This should take around about 3 minutes at most. Now the turkey puttanesca is an amazing dish. It uses pappardelle pasta from Italy, and it's an Italian dish in itself. And what's happening is, as we're using the turkey for it, we're helping to increase brain function. So the turkey is going to mix together with the complex carbohydrates from the pasta, and that's going to try and help regulate our sort of sleep patterns and give us slow releasing energy. Again, while we're in school, we're always looking at nutrition. So we're always looking at how we can best make sure that we get our food to work for us. So if we have something like this, this pappardelle, the pasta, and we add it with our turkey, it's going to help create that and regulate our sleep patterns so that we can keep a high level brain function. What we're going to do is we're going to let these onions soften up for a little bit longer, and then we're going to add in the garlic, Fantastic. Let's add in our garlic. Give it a stir around and make sure all of that garlic soaks into the oils and the onion as well. The garlic has got crazy amounts of health benefits for all of our body, so it's one of the best things to be eating. And I know there's a TV chef who just eats a clove of garlic every day, just raw, and he thinks that it's one of the best things for your body. I like to have mine in food, if I'm being honest. So let's soften that up a little bit longer. It just takes a couple more minutes. And when we can start to see the onions go slightly translucent and slightly softer, we can then add in our turkey mince. There we go. And the turkey, we just want to stir around the bowl and make sure it softens up. Something else we're going to look at while we're in school is the fat content in food. And turkey is one of the leanest meats. So if you're having something like steak or beef mince, that's got around about 20% fat content. Whereas poultry meat, so chicken and turkey, are very, very low in fat. And in fact, the highest fat content level in turkey is around about 7% fat. And that's why we're using it in one of these dishes over here. We could replace it with some beef, we could replace it with some lamb, but if we use the turkey, we're reducing our fat content and we're making sure that we get a healthier meal for ourselves. So as you can see, some of the turkey is cooked and some of it is uncooked. We want to make sure that it all browns up completely. So just keep stirring and moving around the pot until it's all browned up. Right, while that mince is browning off, I'm just going to turn on my water, which I'm going to use to boil my pasta. I'm going to turn it on to the highest heat, so the highest heat I've got possible, and I'm just going to wait until I see big bubbles so that I can start boiling that water. Then I can add the pasta to it, and it should take around about 6 to 8 minutes for the pasta to cook. So I need to make sure that the water is prepared and ready. Now by having the water boiling while we're starting to cook our food, what we're doing is we're doing some GCSE work, which is dovetailing our tasks. One thing we have to do when we're in GCSE is to create a time plan for all of our work and all of the dishes that we cook. And that way we make sure that we're not sort of wasting any time, and certain elements will all come together and mesh together as one. Something as simple as boiling water while we're cooking the rest of our food will mean that we're not wasting extra time after we've cooked all of the food. That way our meal will stay continually hot and we'll get the best sort of out of our dish. Alright, the mince is browned up really nicely now, and what we want to do is we want to add in 2 tablespoons of tomato puree. How much is 2 tablespoons? Well, for me, it's really just a good squeeze. Okay? Maybe a squeeze and a bit. Now that tomato puree is going to add loads of colour to our sauce. Okay? And what we want to do is we want to make sure we coat all of the turkey in that tomato puree. Okay? You want to keep an eye on the temperature as well, because you don't want that puree to burn. You just want to make sure you give the mince a really bright colour. So as we're mixing that all the way around, we're making sure that we coat all of the turkey in the puree so that it gets that even and consistent colour. But we've got to be really careful not to burn it. And again, we're going to be looking at how we control all of the equipment in the food room to make sure we get the most out of our dishes. Alright, it's really important to be in charge of temperature control and to constantly know when our dishes are ready. Alright, that looks lovely. I've coated all of the turkey, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add in my chopped tomatoes. I'm going to add in my chicken stock. I'm going to add in my herbs. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we've been letting our sauce reduce for a little bit. So as it's reducing, you can see the water level is actually sort of dropping. And what's causing that is the heat in the pan is causing all of the liquid to evaporate. And it's making the sauce a little bit thicker. So the longer you leave it, the thicker your sauce will be. Now when I'm doing a puttanesca, I really like to have a thick sort of soupy sauce to it, or I don't want it very watery. So I'm going to leave mine for a little bit longer. As I leave my sauce for a little bit longer, I'm going to start sort of cooking my pasta. Okay, so I've got my pappardelle pasta, and I'm just going to start dropping that into my boiling water. Okay, and it should take around about 6 to 8 minutes for it all to cook through. Now I'm going to leave it, I'm going to sort of only leave it for about 6 minutes, 4 to 6 minutes, because what I would like it to do is I would like it to become al dente. And al dente is a term that we use quite often in food to represent how much sort of bite we want in our pasta. And when we say al dente, we actually mean firm to the bite. So that's a little bit of Italian that we use in cooking to represent how we would like our food cooked. Alright guys, if I have a look at my pasta, I can see it's al dente at the moment. Another way to check for it being al dente is just to take a bit out and have a bite of it. If it's soft but not squishy, that's a good sign. If it's too crunchy, it needs to go in for a little bit longer. But at the moment that's looking really good. So I'm going to turn off my pasta, and I'm now going to drain it using a colander at the sink. Right guys, we're back over to our puttanesca. We've turned off the heat from our turkey, because as we're stirring it, I can see most of the liquid is now reduced and it's become a really thick and just soupy sauce. It looks incredible. It's got great color to it. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the pasta to the turkey. So just start tipping it in. Alright, make sure you've got a big enough bowl. I don't know if I've got I might be sort of slipping over and spilling over a little bit. But let's hope that we're okay. And then just start mixing it all in and try and spread the turkey through the pasta. Now the pappardelle pasta is going to make sure that because it's in long strips, what it's going to do is it's going to make sure it catches as much of that meat as possible. And it's going to hold on to it so that when I sort of scoop it up with my fork, I'm getting both pasta and meat at the same time. Okay, something that spaghetti doesn't quite do as well. So we're going to try and make sure that we get as much of this mixed in together as possible. I probably should have used a bigger bowl, but I really like this dish that I've got, so we're going to make the best of it. Alright, just keep mixing that. And once it's all mixed together, then we can start dishing it up and putting it onto our plates. Right guys, one thing we like to do when we're in GCSE levels is we like to make sure that we can present our dishes really well. So in order to add a little bit extra colour and variety to our plate, what I've done is I've added some salad to this. As you can see, I'm scooping out enough pasta and turkey to make sure I get a decent sized portion. Portion control is really important. Okay, we've got to make sure that we get enough for to fill ourselves, because we don't want to be either over or under eating. All right. To add a little bit extra flavour to this, what we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle over some cheese. Now you could use some Parmesan, because that's a little bit more authentic and Italian. I don't have any with me at the moment, so I'm just going to use plain cheddar cheese. But if you add that all together, that is going to be a fantastic meal. When's the best time to have this? Either before or after an exam, because it's going to really help with brain function. So that will help keep your mind active, and it will help stop some anxiety. But there we are, turkey puttanesca. Enjoy.